All right, today we're going to pop the hood on the future of cars. We're not just talking about horsepower or sleek designs. We're doing a deep dive into the official roadmap for the intelligent chassis, which is basically the digital nervous system that's at the very heart of every smart vehicle to come.
So, before we get buried in all the technical jargon, let's just ask a simple question to get us started. What even is a car's nervous system? I mean, in a person, right? It's what connects our brain to our body, letting us sense the world and react. So, what's the equivalent in a car?
Well, in a car, that's what we call the Electronic and Electrical Information Architecture, or EEI for short. And this right here is the most important concept for you to get. Think of it as the underlying web of hardware and software that connects absolutely everything, processes all the information, and makes all those smart decisions possible. It's not just a metaphor, it really is the car's digital brain and nervous system all rolled into one. Okay, so here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the strategic imperative, why this is such a big deal. Then we'll dig into a negative cycle the industry's kind of trapped in right now. After that, we'll explore the incredibly ambitious vision for 2040, look at the 5 key pillars to get there, and finally, we'll ask the big question. Is this a solid blueprint or just a pipe dream? Let's dive in. First up, the strategic imperative. And, it's so important to get this. This is about so much more than just building cooler cars. This whole roadmap is actually a core piece of national industrial strategy. You see, this EEI roadmap, it's like the keystone for hitting 4 massive national goals all at once. It's the tech that allows for a truly smart transport system where cars talk to everything. It's critical for meeting carbon reduction goals by making vehicles way more efficient. It helps secure the whole supply chain by cutting down reliance on foreign technology. And maybe the biggest one, it forces a huge level up across the entire tech sector, from chip design to software engineering. But, and this is a big but, to even get close to that future, the industry first has to break out of this really tough spot it's in right now. Let's take a look at the core challenge they're up against today. So this table really lays it all out. The problem isn't just about hardware anymore. The real gap, the thing that's holding everything back, is the ecosystem. It's not just about being able to make the parts. It's about a lack of influence on global standards, like AutoStar, which is basically the common language that lets all the car's software talk to each other. And it's about not having the huge pools of data needed to train and deploy software for anything beyond basic Level 2 driver assist. And this is where things get really interesting. The report doesn't see these as separate issues. It calls it a self-reinforcing negative cycle. So what does that actually mean? Well, think about it like this. Because there aren't common standards, the market gets all broken up. That fragmentation means no one can really build up massive scale. And without scale, you can't get the huge amounts of data you need to innovate. See, it's a vicious circle that just feeds itself, and breaking it is priority number 1. So, how in the world do you break a cycle like that? Well, the answer is a super ambitious, long-term vision designed to completely flip the script and aim for global leadership. And this timeline, it just lays out the journey perfectly. In the past, cars had dozens of separate little brains, or controllers. Right now, we're in an era where those are grouped by function. The next step, in the near future, is a powerful central brain with a few regional hubs. But the ultimate goal, the 2040 vision, is where the car and the cloud are so tightly linked, they act like one single, seamless super system. Okay, so this whole evolution is broken down into 3 major leaps. The first step, by 2030, is all about achieving technical leadership, just mastering the core tech itself. Then, by 2035, you have to turn that tech into world-beating products. And the final step, by 2040, is the end game, establishing a globally dominant, self-sufficient industrial ecosystem. Okay, so that's the big picture, the what and the when. But now, for the really important part, the how. How do they actually pull this off? Well, the whole roadmap rests on 5 technical pillars, where they need major breakthroughs. It all comes down to these 5 pillars. They're the foundation for the entire strategy. The overall system design, the hardware it runs on, the software that brings it to life, the communication network that connects it all, and, this one's super important, the simulation and testing to make sure it all works safely. And the key thing to remember here is that these aren't separate projects. They are completely interdependent. You have to make progress on all 5 at the same time, or the whole thing stalls. All right, let's dive a little deeper into one of these, starting with hardware. The huge trend here is what's called extreme integration. Basically, the idea is to cram an insane amount of computing power into fewer but much, much more powerful central chips. So just how much power are we talking about here? The number on the screen is 2,000 TOPS, and that might not mean much, but TOPS stands for trillion operations per second. So we're talking about 2,000 trillion calculations every single second. It's just an absolutely mind-boggling amount of power, and it's what you need to run the kind of advanced AI that makes truly autonomous driving a reality. Okay, let's switch gears to another pillar, the architecture system. And this is less about the car itself and more about how it gets made. The goal here is a total revolution in the development process, shifting away from those slow, traditional automotive cycles to a super fast software-style model that's powered by AI.
And check this out. The ambition here is just wow. It's staggering. Right now, it can take a year and a half to get a new feature into a car. By 2030, the goal is to slash that to 3 months. By 2040, just 1 week. This is a fundamental change in mindset. You start treating the car less like a static piece of hardware and more like your smartphone, which gets new features and updates all the time.
So the vision is crystal clear, right? The targets are incredibly aggressive, which brings us to the million-dollar question. Is this a real, achievable blueprint, or is it just a technological pipe dream? Let's look at the major hurdles and what needs to be done. Well, the report is pretty upfront about the massive roadblocks. There are 3 big ones. First, you've got technical bottlenecks, especially being dependent on other countries for the most advanced chips. Second is that standards and ecosystem problem we talked about, that negative cycle. And third, you have the sheer resources required, not just a ton of money, but also a huge shortage of people with the right mix of skills. So to get past those roadblocks, the roadmap lays out a really clear 3-point call to action. It's the what we need to do now part of the plan. First, conquer the core tech by pouring resources into those weak spots to become self-sufficient. Second, push the whole industry to work together on open standards to finally break that negative cycle. And third, start building the talent pipeline you need for the future, from university all the way to corporate training. And that really brings us to the bottom line. The roadmap is all there. It's detailed, it's ambitious, and it's honest about the challenges. But actually pulling it off means clearing some truly massive hurdles in technology, in industry cooperation, and in talent. So I'll leave you with this question. Is this a clear blueprint for becoming a global leader, or is it a technological leap that's just a little too far, a little too fast? The answer to that is going to shape the entire auto industry for the next 20 years.